There is a ship sitting in 2,000 feet of water off the coast of Cartagena, Colombia. It has been there since 1708. The Colombian government knows exactly where it is. The cargo is worth $20 billion. Nobody is allowed to touch it. That is not an unusual situation. It is the rule. Here are 5 shipwrecks locked behind legal walls, counting down to the most untouchable of all. In 5th place, the SS Central America stands as a cautionary tale of private sector gridlock. When the sidewheel steamer vanished in 1857, it took with it nearly 30 tons of California Gold Rush coins, an entire year's output for some Western mines. More than a century later, deep water technology finally caught up. Between 1988 and 1991, remotely operated vehicles retrieved about 1,800 pounds of gold from nearly 5,000 meters down, including rare 1857S Liberty Head double eagles, quickly authenticated by the Smithsonian. But success bred gridlock. Investors, insurers, and the original salvage group entered a labyrinth of lawsuits over who owned what, with the gold itself locked in escrow as legal costs spiraled. By 2023, the Fifth Circuit Court still had not released the remaining recovered treasure, and a Mansfield salvage memo warned that further recovery would cost more than the potential haul. Here, the barrier is not a sovereign claim or a cultural heritage law, but the sheer weight of private litigation and financial exhaustion. The gold is mapped, measured, and in some cases already recovered, yet it remains untouchable, stranded by the very people who set out to claim it. Number 4. The Nuestra Señora de Atocha stands as the moment when the hunt for sunken gold collided head-on with the machinery of modern law. When the Spanish galleon went down in 1622, it left behind a fortune: 40 tons of gold and silver, chests of emeralds, and more than 1,000 silver bars. For over 3 centuries, the Atocha's location was a mystery. That changed in 1985, when Mel Fisher's team finally uncovered the wreck off the Florida Keys, hauling up gems and coins that would eventually be valued at around $450 million. The real drama played out not on the seabed, but in the courtrooms above. Both the state of Florida and the U.S. federal government staked claims to the treasure, launching a legal battle that reached the Supreme Court. The result was a compromise that now shapes maritime salvage worldwide. Fisher's group kept 80% of the recovered wealth, while the Spanish government received 20%, formalizing a co-ownership model. This precedent, hammered out through years of litigation and diplomatic notes, now echoes through every major salvage permit and international dispute. The Atocha is proof that even when treasure is found and recovered, the law can transform a private triumph into a negotiated stalemate, with the gold itself forever marked by the signatures of courts and sovereigns. Number 3. The San Jose remains suspended between 3 competing sovereignties, each unwilling to yield an inch of legal ground. When Colombian sonar teams pinpointed the galleon's resting place in 2015, at a depth of roughly 2,100 meters off Cartagena, they set off a diplomatic chain reaction. Colombia quickly issued Decreto 1368, declaring the wreck and its estimated $12 billion worth of gold and emeralds to be national cultural patrimony. Spain responded with archival documentation, asserting the San Jose's status as a crown warship and invoking sovereign immunity under international law. The dispute deepened in 2023 when the Cara Cara indigenous community of Bolivia petitioned UNESCO, arguing that the treasure's origins in forced labor mines entitled their descendants to a share. The International Court of Justice intervened, issuing a stay order, ICJ 2021-12, halting all recovery and calling for a joint custodial committee, a body that remains only theoretical as of this year. No artifact has been raised, and the site's coordinates remain classified under Colombian law. UNESCO's review, still pending, underscores the standoff, 3 claims, none resolved, and a fortune locked 2 kilometers below the surface. The San Jose stands as a case where overlapping histories, legal frameworks, and cultural demands have paralyzed action, despite clear technological means to reach the gold. The deadlock is not just bilateral, but triangular, each party invoking a different vision of justice, ensuring that the treasure itself remains untouched and, for now, untouchable. Number 2. The Nuestra Señora de las Mercedes stands as the definitive case where legal doctrine transforms a billion-dollar shipwreck into untouchable state property. In 2007, Odyssey Marine Exploration used deep water technology to recover nearly 17 tons of silver coins from the Atlantic seabed, coins later traced to the Spanish warship Mercedes, lost in 1804. The haul, 594,000 coins, many in mint condition, was flown to the United States, setting off a diplomatic firestorm between Spain and the private salvors. What followed was not a negotiation or a settlement, but a categorical assertion of sovereign rights. In 2012, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals issued a sweeping opinion. Under both the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act and international law, a warship remains the property of its flag state forever, regardless of how much time has passed or where the vessel rests. The court ordered Odyssey to return the entire treasure to Spain, rejecting claims of abandonment and dismissing any reward for salvage effort. The coins now reside in Madrid's National Archaeological Museum, their journey from seabed to courtroom complete. The Mercedes decision has become the prime legal citation for sovereign immunity, invoked in every major shipwreck dispute since. It draws a hard line. No private investment, no matter how sophisticated or costly, can override the rights of a sovereign over its warship. The legal wall is absolute. The treasure is mapped, recovered, and fully documented, yet remains entirely beyond reach, not by lack of technology, but by the force of appellate precedent. And finally, in first place, the Merchant Royal remains the ultimate paradox of lost wealth and modern restraint. In 1641, this English merchantman vanished off Cornwall, taking with it what contemporary pamphlets described as 300,000 pounds of ready bullion and 100,000 pounds of gold, a cargo now estimated at over 4 billion pounds. For centuries, the ship's fate drifted through rumor and occasional archival glimpses, but recent advances have shifted the story from legend to legal gridlock. In 2024, a United Kingdom-based salvage consortium filed a petition in the High Court, seeking permission under the Marine Salvage Act to begin a targeted search. Their technical appraisal, drawing on 17th century manifests and bullion price modeling, projected a haul of nearly 20 metric tons of gold, by far the largest unclaimed treasure in British waters. Yet the very scale of that fortune has triggered a wave of political and legal countermeasures. The Crown Estate, invoking its prerogative over all unclaimed wrecks, issued a statement of intent in 2022, later reaffirmed in 2025, asserting that any discovery would be managed as national heritage, not private property. The Ministry of Defense joined with the Crown in a joint management pledge, promising a 2-year research program, but explicitly barring any commercial salvage. Letters from the Marine Management Organization in March 2024 denied permits for even a preliminary survey, citing the need for a full heritage impact assessment before any artifact could be disturbed. The Crown's policy now requires that any recovered bullion be split, with at least 60% retained by the state, an arithmetic that private investors describe as mathematically impossible for a viable recovery campaign. The Merchant Royal's fate is no longer dictated by the limits of technology. Modern remotely operated vehicles and deep water survey platforms could, in theory, locate and lift the treasure. But the legal and financial walls are now higher than ever. The United Kingdom's heritage regime, shaped by the UNESCO Convention and domestic policy, has transformed the wreck from a commercial prospect into a protected symbol. The gold remains mapped in court dockets and technical reports, its value recalculated with each spike in the bullion market, yet not a single coin has been touched. In the end, the Merchant Royal stands as the purest example of a shipwreck where maximum notional value has produced maximum restraint. A billion-pound ghost ship locked beneath the sea not by distance or depth, but by the law's deliberate refusal to let anyone claim its fortune. Across all 5 wrecks, one paradox stands out. Treasure that is physically within reach remains locked away by legal and political barriers. The true depth isn't measured in meters, but in centuries of unresolved claims. In the end, history's richest cargoes are imprisoned not by nature, but by our own systems.